morning, everyone. Welcome to Ocean Geographic Live Next Gen Youth Forum. And this morning, we have 4 brilliant youth from Australia, USA, and New Zealand. And with us here to deliver a keynote this morning is Jennifer Hayes. Jennifer is our longtime collaborator with Ocean Geographic, a National Geographic photographer, sturgeon queen, harp seal's mum, aka Auntie Jane. So take it away, Auntie Jane. You can take away and do the keynote for us, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I do. I saw that email thread literally was and there was an Aunt Jen throughout that when I was talking to the scuba nauts. So that was kind of interesting. But I'm not going to talk a lot, Michael, because the whole premise of this is simple. David and I are often in National Geographic meetings, and we are hashtags for success and future successes of oceans are simple. They are collaboration, and they are next generation. And we have these massive meetings in geographic, and what's missing in those meetings, David?
The next generation. This is all of you guys.
So what we've set out to do, and we're not alone, and we've been inspired by Ocean Geographic, because Ocean Geographic has had a heavy hand in promoting next generation, whether it's anti-shark fin consumption in Asia. Remember, Michael, the pledge, the no to shark fin soup pledge, and hundreds of Asian kids that were going to lead the next generation in shark conservation. And we talk about next generation as solutions, and that is the solution. So what we're doing at National Geographic is trying to incorporate next generation into our program and our storytelling, submerging with the scuba nauts in Florida. It was incredible to meet Cruz at WPOTY in 2 years ago now.
Yep.
And watched him win 2 categories. And then David had the idea, this is who we need on our assignments with us. And so we're hoping to, number one, the word mentor's been around a long time. We need to go beyond mentor, give a platform, give a voice. Moreover, Michael and everyone else that's listening there, Alex, we need to give them opportunity. A platform and a voice isn't it, but we need to get this group out wherever they are all over the world, get them out, get them wet, help them get to where they want to go. So I'm going to invite who's ever listening to stalk us, literally stalk David and I. And our goal is to basically amplify your interests and to give you guys a pathway or help you on your pathway. And that's really all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say that we've submerged with some of you. We plan on more. And if we can promote your work or your interest, or we will do that. That's really, I'm done talking. We need you to talk now.
Okay, Alex Rose this morning is our moderator for this session, our science editor. So Alex, would you be kind to introduce the youth we have this morning, please?
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, thanks to everybody joining us today. This should be a fun panel. So as you know, this whole topic today is all about giving a voice to our next generation. So today we've got with us 4 people, 4 young people from all around the world who are going to tell us a bit about what they're doing in the field of ocean conservation. So we're starting with Cruz, who is coming to us from Auckland, and I believe he's in between rowing competitions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is true.
Well, first, good luck with that, and thanks for making the time. And let me tell everybody a bit about you, and then I will hand the floor over to you so you can give us a bit of an idea about what you're interested in. So, Cruz was born and raised in Bali and has been diving since he was 10 years old and exploring reefs in eastern Indonesia with his family well before that. He started taking underwater photos with his father's hand-me-down kit at the age of 12 and won the title of Young Wildlife Photographer of the Year in 2019. Since then, he was invited to share his story and ocean conservation message at the World Economic Forum in Davos and has recently been named Young Ocean Photographer of the Year by Oceanographic magazine. So that's a pretty impressive start. Very cool. I've looked at your images. Congrats. Amazing stuff. And let's go to you. Tell us more about you and what you're into.
All right. I'm just going to get a quick PowerPoint up quickly.
Go right ahead.
So, as I introduced me before, my name is Cruz Erdman. So I was born and raised in Bali, next to the sea. I've been by the sea essentially my whole life, and I've been fortunate enough to be born into a family of where both my parents have been marine conservationists, and I've been really lucky to, from a young age, to be able to join them on trips to these remote and incredible places to help with scientific field work and generally explore. I've had places like Raja Ampat and the greater Papua area as essentially my playground as when I was younger. I've always been in the ocean, but I started diving around the age of 7. And I fell in love with it. And I kept doing it until my dad gave me this camera around 3 years ago now. His old hand-me-down camera, and then I just played around with it, and I picked up photography at the age of 12. Actually, the photo that won me the Young Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition was taken only about 2 months after I picked up a camera for the first time. So my passions are basically all things marine. It's been the #1 focus of my life since I was born. So diving, free diving, basically everything involved with the ocean I've always been a huge fan of. And one thing recently that I've especially been a fan of is photography. And photography to me is that I've always loved sharing what I see underwater and sharing my thoughts and feelings about what I do. But I find photography to be this amazingly direct way of communicating that with the outside world. To people who haven't had the experiences the same as me, yet I'm able to show them through the lens of a camera. And communication, especially scientific communication, is a passion that I have a lot. I think it's very critical in order for people to understand the ocean and nature and the conservation, is to communicate well and inspire them with the wonder and beauty, and also inform them about the precarious state in order to instigate change. And as much as I love, as everyone does, the large, charismatic megafauna such as dolphins and whales, I'm also equally want to bring attention to the foundations of our oceans, the little things, the rices of the reef, things like dwarf gobies and bunnies, which you have probably never heard of, but their role in the ocean is no less important than the things that we are aware of. And these are just some of the little things that I want to inform people about. Climate change. To me, it's undoubtedly the biggest natural issue, if not human issue, there is since basically our existence. It is, and what I find very unfair about it is that it's not me sitting in Auckland who's going to feel the worst brunt of it. It's going to be the people in island nations, the people in the tropics, the environments in the most vulnerable places that are going to have the biggest brunt, despite people in those places not actually being the biggest contributors. And I think what really saddens me about climate change is that it is something that is totally within possibility to stop and to move forward to. But a lot of people don't, because there's a huge disconnect between people and the consequences of their actions, especially when the biggest effects of climate change are hundreds of miles away in places that a lot of people don't know about. So my achievements in the past 2 years have been, I won the Natural History Museum in London's Young Wildlife Photographer of the Year in 2019. That's where I met Jen and David, actually, and that's why I'm on this panel. Later, about 2 months from that, I was invited to speak at the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2020, and I was to give a presentation alongside an underwater legend, essentially, Sylvia Earle, about my photography and what I hope to do with it in order to inspire people. And just recently, later in this year, I won the Young Ocean Photographer of the Year 2020, hosted by Oceanographic magazine. My aspirations for the future. As I'm now living in New Zealand, I feel like the opportunities in New Zealand are golden. It's a very pristine area. It's very young, in my opinion. And what I find is that a lot of people in New Zealand are very unaware of what they have, and they're even more unaware of the rate at which they could lose it. So I really think that I really do want to do more work in New Zealand to show how that Kiwis have a very unique opportunity compared to the rest of the world to still keep a very pristine and rich area. And things that I have been hoping to be involved in is things like passing Mako shark legislation in New Zealand to ban the fishing of them, as well as expanding MPAs, which are a very new idea to New Zealand, and bringing more of those ideas to the foreground to Kiwis. I'd also like to still focus a lot of attention of people onto, as I said before, the small foundations of the ocean, which a lot of people overlook. And a further long-term goal is to become a very respected communicator and advocate for the oceans. So, some people which I have seen and aspired to do the same is people like David Attenborough, or even, Jen and David, where the way they can touch and inspire people is simply incredible, and I do really aspire to be like that way. So thank you. Terima kasih, as they say in Indonesian.
Thanks, Cruz. That was great. Awesome pictures too. Of course, no surprise though. Good, there we go. Well, thanks for starting us off. So we're going to go through all four of you first and then kind of come back and do some Q&A. So next, we are going to head to Australia with Natasha. So Natasha is a 16-year-old climate activist living in Australia. She primarily organizes in the school strike movement, which is a national movement of young students demanding their leaders for meaningful climate change action. As a young person living in an area that has been disproportionately affected by climate change, Natasha is passionate about addressing and solving the climate crisis. All right, Natasha, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi, so I don't have a fabulous PowerPoint like Cruz did, but just to tell you all about myself, I'm a climate activist in Australia, and I organise a lot of events nationally, primarily to bring light on this crisis that we're currently in, because our Australian leaders aren't doing a good enough job, and Australia is the biggest coal exporter in the world, and coal and oil and gas, they're the biggest causes of climate change, and bringing that back to my perspective of climate change, we have the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, which is the largest reef in the world, and we've had multiple mass coral bleaching events since 2016. And not to mention a lot of coal industry companies are flooding the Great Barrier Reef. And I've been there the past few years diving. I'm not as experienced as a diver as the rest of the panelists, but I've seen firsthand all of these impacts of coral bleaching, and it's really hard to undo those impacts of climate change, because in Australia particularly, we're very vulnerable being in the south. I live in an area where we've been affected by bushfires, and a lot of the areas in Australia and globally, people who are being impacted by the climate crisis are often marginalized groups of people, yet the people who are contributing to the climate crisis and are the main contributors of carbon emissions are those who aren't going to be as impacted. So I consider my role in the movement to be elevating those voices of people who are being impacted and who don't get that platform that I'm privileged to have. And so some of my achievements that I've had in sort of, bringing the climate crisis to light and to create change both locally and nationally was in September. There was an International Day of Action, and I helped nationally organize about 600 events nationally in Australia, because our government had wanted to propose some really bad gas plans when we should be using the opportunity coming out of COVID to move to renewable energy, instead of, flooding our oceans and putting more emissions in the air, especially because the oceans are going to be soaking up all that carbon dioxide, which then causes coral bleaching. I've also organized a huge live stream event in May, which had about usually we have a base of 300,000 people, but we had a smaller one in May because of COVID, just educating everyone about what's going on and like what are these impacts and how it's going to be impacting our environment and how it's also going to be impacting us. And as a young person, climate change is primarily going to be impacting all of us because that's the future we're growing up in, and this is the future we're going to be living in. So it's really important for young people to take a stand because older people don't have that understanding and they don't have that fear that we have because they aren't going to be living in the future that we have to wake up to. A few more of my achievements was I was on BBC World Radio, sort of explaining why it's so important to address the climate crisis and why in Australia it's particularly important for our leaders to address it and why we need to keep interacting with our leaders and talking to our leaders and asking them and demanding for them to take some meaningful action. So I think it had like 40 million listeners, which was a really big thing. So that was like one of the things we've done. But I think the most, like my biggest aspiration isn't to be like famous. It isn't to be someone that like everyone in the world knows, but my biggest aspiration is to actually create some change and to actually help people understand this is what's going on. This is like in Australia, we're experiencing all of these impacts now, and our reefs are dying, our ecosystems are collapsing already. It's not something that's going to happen in 7 years, which a lot of people think. It's something that's happening right now. And it's something, my biggest aspiration is just for all of our leaders to act on climate and to have a plausible and solid goal that's achievable and that we can work towards.
That's great, Natasha. Thank you so much for that and for your commitment to doing so much already. And congratulations on everything you've achieved so far. That's great. All right, now we are headed to the East Coast of the United States, and we are going to hear from Braden in Florida. So, Braden is a sophomore at Lakewood Ranch High School in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. He's been scuba diving for 3 years, has been in scuba knots for 2 years, with over 125 lifetime dives and just over 50 being science related. He's currently working on a project on a natural ledge in the Gulf of Mexico to study how fish react to an ROV versus human divers. Well, that sounds cool. Hi, Braden. All right, why don't you tell us about some of that?
So I've been doing a mastermind project in Scuba Knots, and Scuba Knots basically is a group of kids in the ages of 12 to 18 doing scientific research all around the Florida coast and even in North Carolina now with some of our newer chapters. I've personally been to the Keys twice so far in Scuba Knots doing research in the Florida Keys with some of their diseases and working with boat laboratories. Over the summer, I actually started doing my own research project with an ROV that I got from a company I met over in May, which I started working with, and I've been trying to do research on how fish react to an ROV compared to an actual human diver. Some of my biggest achievements have been just being part of Scuba Knots and being able to help where I can and being to learn all these new things and help educate others while being educated myself and just learn all the new things and how it really works and just seeing how much of an impact I can have on tomorrow without even really doing anything. That's really some of my achievements have been starting this project and getting to meet some of these amazing people that I've worked with to try and get where I am with this. And I hope to soon start this project and get it going better and start getting out into the Gulf and do more research based on some of these fish I've been studying, just to see if it was possible to do. Yeah.
Well, that sounds really interesting. Thanks. All right, well, we'll have to make sure we keep watching for this research. I'm interested to see how it goes. All right, well, last and certainly not least, we've got Bryn from North Carolina. So Bryn is 15 and she's from Morehead City, North Carolina, which is a place that a lot of us know for really good shark diving. So she's been diving since her mom dragged her down to Florida for her checkout dives at Blue Heron Bridge. She started diving in part because her mom made her. I like that part. But also because she loved the stories she would hear about shark and barracuda encounters, lionfish collecting, biological surveying, and other adventures. She joined the Scuba Nauts in 2019 and has gone on several scientific missions. She's a 10th grade homeschooler and divides her time between dance, year-round swimming, Scuba Nauts, and volunteering with the local dive shop that trains veterans on how to become scuba instructors. And you're currently a PADI master diver, which is very exciting as well. So, Bryn, tell us a bit more about you and what you're into.
Yes, ma'am. So, like you said, I got certified at 10. A lot of the reason why I did that was because Mom was like, "Did you hear? I saw a giant tiger shark today." Or, "Did you hear? I saw a barracuda." And it was weird when I finally started diving and could go to all of these places because I'd heard stories about them and they were so familiar to me, even though I'd never been there, which was really cool. Like you said, I just got my master diver because I just turned 15. I'm trying to get up to dive master by the time I turn 18, so that's one of my goals for the future. With climate change, it's incredibly depressing for me sometimes because I live in an area that isn't greatly affected by the effects of climate change. We have sea level rise, but a lot of the people here are used to that. Like, we're not in an area that gets hit by many hurricanes. We don't have forest fires. We have barrier reefs, which protects us from a lot of the negative effects of that thing. And so when we hear about this stuff, like there are forest fires in Australia and California and increased hurricanes that hit more tropical islands, it sounds like this thing that doesn't affect us. And so a lot of people here don't really take action because it doesn't have any personal effect on their lives. So I would like to try to change that because it is something that affects all of us and it is something that we need to change. And just because it doesn't affect you right now doesn't mean that in 5 years your nice beachfront condo won't be flooded up to the 5th floor because climate change. Yeah.
Good deal. Well, thanks for sharing. All right. Well, where shall we start? All right. As our friend and mentor, Dr. Sylvia Earle, always likes to remind us about, the best scientists and explorers have the attributes of kids. They ask questions and have a sense of wonder. They have curiosity. And I think we all agree that those are things that we should all try to hang on to, no matter how old we get. So let's start off, and we don't have to do this in any specific order, but I know Cruz has to go soon in the next 15 minutes or so. So we'll probably try to start with him. But maybe if we could hear from some of you about what you think are some of the impacts that young people can have on conservation efforts. What actions can your generation take to help protect our natural resources in the coming years?
I think one thing we're seeing very prolifically in these coming years, especially with the whole climate movement, is a lot of people want to hear from young people. You know, our opinions are they're being put in the limelight a lot more. And as well, this is quite interesting time because some of the young millennials and people born to that generation are now actually stepping up into the workforce and stepping up into those positions of power. So I think you're going to see, especially in the next few years, this young generation taking a lot more power. And I think the effect that will have on conservation is huge because we come in with a fresh mindset that isn't affected by, back in my day, this is the way. This is entirely influenced by the events of today and its relevance. So I think that as soon as the balance of power starts changing to the younger generation, I think that conservation will change very dramatically.
Can only hope so. All right, who else wants to jump in?
So I know in Florida, at least, in where I am at, we do a parade every year. It's called the Gasparilla, where they throw beads from a boat off into the crowd. So usually either a month or two after that, scuba nauts will actually go out into the canal and actually clean up some of these beads.
Oh,
So then when we go and talk to other youth groups and people try and get involved, we always talk about that and how it helps just with the conservation and try to make sure that like we try to keep our oceans as clean as possible, even after such a big event.
yeah, and that it's good to focus on the super local efforts that we can make, you know, because it's easy, I guess, to talk about, you know, these large scale impacts, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's all the little stuff that we all do in our hometowns that makes such a big difference. So yeah, being able to connect with people locally is super important. All right, who else?
Like Brayden said, the local things are really important. Like a couple of years ago, a bunch of my friends got together and I don't remember who we were working with, but we were putting sandbags in place on an area where the shoreline had been eroded, so that oysters could grow and we could create a new oyster farm, and just stuff like that, like talking to your friends and telling them, hey, this is important, we need to step up and figure this out because nobody's going to do it for us, is really important.
Yeah, definitely. Taking responsibility is the way to go with all of this.
Alex, can I ask these guys a question?
Yeah, jump in.
Okay, you guys, you four are extremely motivated. David and I have seen some of you underwater.
Yeah.
And you went in early and got out later than we did.
Yeah.
You exhausted us.
Don't quit.
And like I say, we saw Cruz in London and his work and his passion and the continuance of passion. You're motivated. Are your friends as motivated? What is the temperature of your contemporaries, your friends? Do they know anything about the oceans? Do they care about the oceans? Are you unique this way? We need to know, and I'd like to also know how we inspire other people to be as energized, how we inspire your contemporaries to be as energized as you, and how do we do that? And the other thing is, what tools do you need eventually going down the road? But forget that. I'm curious, what are your friends like? What is your groups like? Tell us, are you weird or not? Let's hear it.
I think with, you know, especially since I moved to New Zealand, you know, a place which, as I said before, is very unaware of their ocean and everything. A lot of my friends, it's a matter of upbringing. Like, I've been incredibly lucky to have that insight where I'm incredibly passionate about the ocean, and I was able to go in, and I was able to explore and love it, and I also was given insight into the problems facing it. And I think it's not a matter of that they don't care. It's a matter of that it's never really been the biggest number one thing in their life. And a lot of the time when they do go to, for instance, my exhibition recently off in the museum, they come back and comment about how they've seen things they've never seen before, or they gained a new insight that they previously did not have. So it's simply about making people aware, because they're not born with the same opportunities or insight that, you know, us four may have.
Good point. Yeah, you weren't born into a family that lives in the desert, that's for sure. Yeah, you've had some unique opportunities, but you could have also said to your father, Dr. Mark Urban, no, I'm going to become an astronaut. I'm not going underwater, but you didn't.
No, you did.
So how are you? So do you stand out in a crowd? Are your friends interested? What's going on? You're here. Why? And what are your friends doing? They think it's cool, or are oceans uncool? What's going on? Give us a pulse of something.
So in my friend group, at least, we love the ocean, so we try as much as we can just to get out on it, just fishing or anything. And we always, even if there's trash, we always just try to get to it and just try to make sure we clean up as much as possible. And I know with Scuba House, we do a lot of outreaches, and it always, that's one of the number one things we focus on is like help marine conservation and picking up trash and just helping where we can, even if it takes a little bit of time out of our day, but it helps in the future.
Brayden, Is that the group within the Scuba Knots? Or what's it like when you're in your classroom surrounded by 29 other of your students? What are they like? We know what the scoop. What are your other friends doing that are not in the Scuba Knots? I want to know.
At my school, we do have cleanups but I know when they did one a couple of weeks ago, or I think it was in October, I know there was like 50 students went to that, which is not a huge number, but it's better than what it could have been.
It's pretty good.
It's a start. And I know my school's trying to get more out there, and they have a conservation group. I know more people have been joining it recently than there have been. And I've been trying to just help promote it as much as possible where I can.
Good. Awareness. Someone else. Come on, let's hear this.
Well, for me, most of my friends are definitely very supportive, and they do have strong beliefs in this. They're not as passionate as I am, so they'll come along to events that are already organized. We've had a lot of cleanups, so they'll come along to beach cleanups and things. But I think what increases the urgency in other people who aren't as passionate as people who are dedicating most of their lives to this, and it's their number one thing that's they're focusing on, is when people see the numbers, we have this much plastic in our oceans, this much percentage of corals being bleached. I think that then gives other people a sense of urgency to want to help and want to support. So I definitely don't think that people who aren't as actively involved, don't support or don't agree, and don't want to be actively involved in conservation. But I just think, they're not as passionate and they have other things going on, and when we see those numbers, it really makes people want to act.
Nastasia, I'd like to ask you, being in Australia in your school you're in, what are your teachers and your principal? Are they supportive of what you do, being an activist and putting a voice for nature, and especially speaking out against the Prime Minister of Australia? What does the school think of it?
I think the school's supportive of having action on climate, but not so much of us speaking against our government and rallying the government. I don't think they're as supportive, especially because there are a lot of politics does come to play in schools, just sort of subtly. You don't really see it. So I don't think they're supportive, especially because it's a school strike, so we skip one day of school.
Yeah, I see putting up big signs like that. What the actual principal say to you when you actually see those signs? You guys make it up,
They're not supportive of us skipping school. They do definitely believe in climate change, and they do think we need to have action on it. But I'm not sure that they're supportive of the whole protest thing.
I'm impressed. Next time you have to invite me to come along and play.
Definitely.
Yeah, do that.
That's good. All right, Bryn, what about you? What are your peers like?
Yeah, I'm homeschooled, so I don't have a lot of friends. But I have.
Okay, I was homeschooled too. It's all right.
I have.
You're your friends now.
That's right.
But swim, dance. It's interesting. We're all in this period of time where everything is changing. When you're a kid, it's very simple, and then you get to be an adult and you have all these responsibilities. And this is the transition time, and a lot of my friends just sort of focus on that. And, they don't necessarily focus, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody, but they don't necessarily focus on climate change or these bigger issues, because their world is, what's changing, what's different, what's the same, what are my friends doing? And so it's just not as focused on outside issues as it could be.
Yeah, that makes sense. You definitely tend to develop that larger worldview thing as you get older, and some people never do, but definitely when you're younger, it's not common. So yeah, I think that's probably something that makes all of you a bit unique. on the topic of peers, I'm kind of curious, what do all of you think are some of the best ways to reach out to other people your age, whether it's through social media or what kind of social media, or by showing what is more videos, photos, stories? What is it that you think resonates with the people around you that are your age? Whoever wants to jump in, go ahead. Cruz, this will probably be your last one anyway, because then I know you have to go, so hop in.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem that a lot of people are completely ignorant to these issues. It's just that they've been hearing a lot of the same thing, and to them, sometimes, in the mess of their lives or them worrying about other things, it becomes background noise almost. So you can reach out to them in social media. You can talk to them in person. You can do all of this, but I think a really effective way is to, if what you're doing right now isn't working, then you have to do something that you're not doing. So giving them something new, something that relates to them, something that they find that will hit them at home. So, and different things work for different people, right? And so I think finding that sweet spot where you give them something where it's all of a sudden the reality hits home, all of a sudden that they actually think that this is important. And so, pulling out all the stops and trying new things is probably the best way to do it.
All right. Before you sign off, because everybody else is going to be there, what are the platforms now where everybody is? What are the most popular platforms or your peers are on? Let's hear some. What is cool and what's uncool right now? Let's hear this. So before Cruz vanished, I wanted to hear that. Or maybe it's none. Maybe it's, none. Let's hear it.
With especially where I am, if I have an Instagram account for photography, because to be honest, that's the only place where I actually see my peers on. They're not on Facebook, and you can't communicate photos and messages through, like Messenger or Snapchat. So Instagram is where I find the most success, because that's where people consume new content and find out new things visually, through text, through all that. So
all right.
Instagram is probably the biggest medium, and also just fucking school.
Right.
It's not, the world is not all online, even though it may seem like that now. So hands-on experience and real-life experience does make up majority of young people's lives, I notice here. So finding them through that is probably even more effective.
Okay, so you would say Instagram. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, when you rowing here in a little while?
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to go row? Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Good luck.
Stroke.
Stroke. All right, now the other panelists. What are the platforms? Where do we find you and your contemporaries? Where do we have these conversations? Yeah.
My biggest platform is Instagram as well. I think that's the best place for young people to interact. It's just it's the best thing to use to message each other, share things, share videos, photos, anything. But with communicating with people, I think the most important thing to consider, and the thing that we should keep in mind, is when I'm trying to send out a message, it should be to empower people, because and inspire and empower. So when you empower someone, it makes them feel like they can do something and that they can create change, and it motivates them to do something. And it sort of brings just a brilliant energy to the issue you're trying to address. And then it gets people who are feeling empowered to talk to more people, and it just spreads really widely, and it becomes something not as drastic anymore, and something exciting, because you can do something about it and we can create change. So that, I think that's one of the most important things we should try and do when we're communicating with other young people.
Yep. Very good. All right. What about US?
Instagram's probably the biggest one here as well. I know Skoonas has one. I know they post a lot of what we do on there. I know they also have Facebook, which is I know it gets brought up a lot in my family anyway. But I don't know how many young people are on Facebook to look at that necessarily, but I know Instagram is definitely a big one here.
All right.
Good feedback.
Yeah. Yes, that confirmed my suspicions that Facebook is dying.
Well, and yeah, it's a tool for the platform has this demographic to it, right? And is anybody who for instance is doing any TikToking?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is anyone a TikToker here?
TikToking? Just curious.
Well, I don't use TikTok anymore, but for one campaign we did during like sort of the beginning of COVID-19, we had to move all our campaigns online. I had to create a viral TikTok dance like within Australia because there was a company contracting with like a really large coal contractor. They've like polluted the Great Barrier Reef 800% over how much they're supposed to, and that company's broken 2 environmental laws. I think a few more actually. I haven't really been keeping that much track, but we had to make a campaign and we had to do it over TikTok. So that was my TikTok experience.
Was it amazing?
It was fun. I know a lot of my friends are very addicted to that app.
Yeah.
So,
Curious.
Yeah.
Just curious where your space is.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to say something now that's important for all of us to understand, that we have, all of us underwater, water people, have a unique perspective on how this planet, our planet, works. More than our friends, more than everybody else in the street that we wander by or we talk to on Facebook or TikTok or anything else. And that's what happens when you go underwater. And it gives us a chance to really start thinking about where the Earth is going. And we have this very, very valuable perspective. It is the most valuable thing of all the years that I've lived on this planet and been underwater. This is the most valuable thing that I have. That's number one. Number two, we're nerds. I'm sorry, we're underwater.
No, you're
nerds.
a nerd.
No,
Embrace it.
They're nerds. You're nerds. And the only thing I can tell you about nerds is nerds rule. And it's true. So what we have is entirely valuable, and how we communicate it is a very, very important thing with our lives. So, and the final thing is the second greatest of all human attributes, and I'll say this over and over and over again, is curiosity. The first greatest is kindness.
Yeah. So, hey, Ocean Geographic people.
Yes.
Michael, where's Michael gone?
He's over there somewhere. He's hiding in his pseudo movie studio.
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about, and this didn't actually fly out of my brain, it flew out of it's in a colleague's brain that I was trapped on a plane with her and I listened to her and she had a good idea, was there's a lot of granting opportunities out there for young people and scholarships. Mm-hmm. And she has gone to the trouble of finding them and putting them on a site so people are aware. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, the students themselves, the young people, can I compete for $1,000 scholarship for this? Can I compete for the Rolex underwater scholar? All of these. And I think I'm going to start stalking Ocean Geographic to maybe consider, let's see what we can't find and let's see what we can't put out there as an increasing awareness to opportunities, internships, scholarships, a place where this next generation can go to and see opportunities. You stumble into them. The Rolex scholarship came out of the same university 3 years in a row because no one knew about it. And I think it would be great to have there's a word for this, Alex, what is it? A place. Yeah.
Yes. Platform.
Private platform, something like that.
Yeah, like a clearinghouse, a place where people can, if we could link to these opportunities, because they're out there. Even the emerging geo
There are some great ones, and I mean, Women Divers Hall of Fame has that whole series, and I mean, it's not just for women, like it's from Women Divers Hall of Fame, but it's for everyone. I mean, the reason I'm able to take photos underwater is because I got an advanced dive training grant from them 7 or 8 years ago now, and I was able to buy my housing. I mean, a lot of these things are cost prohibitive unless somebody's helping us out, So yeah, there are tons of good resources out there. We just need to be find it, so collate them into one place.
So that people that we reach can look at these opportunities, and we can put these opportunities in front of the next generation.
And the people in the diving industry all need interns, and it should be a clear pass for that. That's a way to get out there.
We've tortured a few.
Yeah. Say one more thing, that everybody's work here today is incredibly invaluable.
Yeah.
Serious.
Cruz is already rowing, but
Cruz is stroke. But everybody, I congratulate you in doing things that are, way beyond your years and incredibly valuable. So thank you very, very much. I'm so proud to be able to talk to everybody here.
I know. I really like the emphasis from on the local level, because that's where you see the greatest influence, to regional, to global. It's we think locally here. We work globally, but we pull the most. Our oar is in the water locally here for a reason, to influence locally. It's important. So yeah, Michael, you were going to say something. Can we do this? Can we?
I think Jane Jenkins will be watching on later on, especially.
She would be a good person to help with this.
For the next scholars. I think everyone in this here should apply for the scholarship once they're ready.
Yeah.
And I'm enthused and encouraged to organize our own scholarship, to Ocean Geographic scholarship. So I'm working on that. Actually, I've been working on that for the last year or so. And
we have our first ever intern.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
At the moment.
Exactly. Yep. And we will make some announcement next year. So watch this space, especially those are on this panel now. That we are here to help you. We're here to empower you and encourage you and give you a platform.
It's good.
Yeah,
thank you.
Definitely.
That's what. Yeah, all of us who are established, I think we're swimming around in circles when we were emerging, and we didn't. All of us, a lot of us got to where we are, wherever we are, with a helping hand, and we stand on the shoulders of the people that helped us up. All of us, and boy, we need a lot of help now in the next generation. So I'm telling anyone who's watching this to stalk us and let us know how we can help. That's the goal. That's where we are now. That's our goal now. So.
Yep. I like it.
So I'd like to
sounds
last
good.
round of question for everyone, please.
Yeah, I think the last round of questions we'll finish off with, where do you all see yourselves in the future? Let's say maybe 10 years down the road. Where do you see yourselves? Where would you like to be? And obviously this is just ideal, but yeah, what's your road look like? Whoever wants to jump in.
Who's jumping in?
Yeah, who's starting?
In my future, I hope to still be doing this sort of work with scuba nauts, or maybe not with scuba nauts, but help with marine conservation where I can, and even try to continue this ROV project, just see where I can go with it, see if I can make it bigger, see how it turns out.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a lot to be learned about all of our underwater exploration via vehicles and such. I meant to ask you, what ROV are you using?
It's the Sofar's Trident.
Yeah, the Trident. Yep, I thought that might be a good option for you. Cool. A good one. All right, 2 victims left.
Natasha, in 50 years, where are we going to find you?
Whoa, that's way down the road.
Let's say 10. Let's go for 10.
Right. In 10 years, I'm not really sure about what I'm going to be doing in my near future, but I really want to help people or become a leader in the future, because there's a lot of things that I really want to change, like both locally and like statewide and nationally wide. And just, but I also really want to see myself helping people in my local community more, and helping those groups who have less privilege and need more help, just because of the way our society is built, and also just going to like areas that have been affected by climate change, and doing a lot of service there, because I understand what it feels like to be on those front lines, and it's not a great feeling, and I want to help those in need. But in 10 years, I think I do have some aspirations to become a leader, because as like a lot of young people see a lot of things wrong in our current systems, and we want to change those, and I want to be one of those young people who step up to that huge plate of responsibilities, to sort of lead people and to make our world a better place, I guess, just to make it more fair and make it more equal, make it more just, and to ensure that all issues are being addressed, because currently they aren't, and they're not being addressed in a way which really helps those communities that are being affected.
I hate to say this to you, but you might have a future in politics.
I was just going to say that. Peter, I was going to say, no, you're not going to become a leader. You are a leader. And I was thinking the entire time, I'm like, oh my gosh, this person should go into politics.
How about a politician with an extraordinary amount of knowledge?
Yes.
What a
Impossible. They don't exist.
Actually,
those are mutually exclusive categories.
We're all leaders, but yes, that's incredible. So, Bryn, where are you going to be? Want to be? Where do you see yourself?
So I don't have any concrete goals, but I do definitely want to help make a difference. Some of the things that the U.S. has done, like they've opened up a wildlife reserve to fracking, and we pulled out of the climate agreement. And those are things that I'd like to change. And I don't know if I'll be a politician. I don't want to be, really. But I definitely want to be able to figure out how to change some of these policies that our leaders have made. And I want to just help change the environment, whether if that's by bringing awareness to people that, hey, this is something we should worry about, or by volunteering wherever I am. That's what I'd like to be doing.
Excellent.
That's great. There are a lot of roads to that.
Influence. Wow, yeah. This has been great. Thank you, Ocean Geographic, for this.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you all for being part of this. This has been great, insightful, and interesting.
Yeah.
Michael.
Wow. I am impressed. Very well done, everyone. It's amazing. Congratulations on all your achievements. You girls, guys, are the future movers and shakers. Our future Silver Earls and future David Attenborough. Like I say, they always say children can save the world, but you have to be empowered and encouraged, and you can count on us, Ocean Geographic, me, Alex, David, Jen. We are here for you. Just reach out to us. We've been doing this for a very long time now, and it's time for us to pass the baton to you. Keep up the good work, and like I say, if anyone any help, reach out to us. Good luck, stay passionate. Can I say it's amazing.
And keep up on your writing skills, so you don't have to have somebody, a very annoying editor like myself, picking apart the things you write.
And before everybody signs off, who would have liked to have seen Michael here at age 14 on this platform?
Well, I don't know if I would have wanted to see that. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
The school uniform getting in trouble.
Fly on the wall with that one.
No doubt.
In trouble, running away from schools and things like that. But anyway, something I'd like to share with everyone.
Don't do what Michael did.
Is that how I see it is that we have a project called Coral Reefs of the World. I'm not sure David and Jen is aware of this now, but it's something that we want.
They are now.
the coral reef we have now, you know, in 2020, you know, pictures that we captured between in the last 3 years. And we're going to do these traveling exhibitions and books of the reef system we've got now. And Alex is given the task of redoing this book 30 years from now, when she's 65.
Oh my God, don't even say these things out loud.
So 30 years from now, she's going to redo this book. I won't be here, but she'll be here, and she needs all the help she can get to.
That's right, and we have to keep doing this every 30 years. That's what Michael says. So I guess I'm going to need some help.
So that's how we're going to be passed along, you know, to the next generation to keep doing what we are doing. So yeah,
That's right. That's right.
I like it.
Story. Legacy. It's a legacy, Michael.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Legacy
It'll be a
storytelling
legacy
and
project.
documentation. So.
Yep.
Well, good. All right. Thank you all for
everyone.
being. Was it as painful as everyone thought? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Braden, like, yeah.
No, everyone said fine. It was good.
All right.
thank you.
Well,
Good luck, everybody.
Okay.
Have a good Christmas and New Year. Have a great one. Thank you.
Yes, everybody stay safe.
Stay safe.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.